Karen Offutt, welcome to the Undraped Artist Podcast.
Hello, Jeff. Thank you for inviting me. This is great.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I discovered you or something. And then we met at the Porch Society. And I can't remember if the year we met, you were actually in. I know you've had paintings in as finalists many times, if I remember correct.
No,
Just one time. So was
yeah,
it
last,
was it really?
yeah,
Congrats. That's awesome.
with that painting right there.
Yep. And that's a gorgeous,
Yeah.
gorgeous painting. So what did you end up winning with that? Do you remember?
Oh God, I think it was like 13th place.
Yeah. What
Um,
yeah, what do they call
yeah,
that? Like
I have no idea.
know. Yeah, I can never remember the name.
Uh,
There's so many awards. But it's an honor
yeah,
it's an honor to be in the top 20. I mean, because one thing I tell my
yeah.
students, I've got a bunch of students coming down with me this year. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, and we're gonna go to the National Portrait Gallery and everything after. And I told them it's almost sort of anticlimactic going to the portrait gallery after seeing the contest winners because they are so good that you think
Hmm.
you're going to the portrait gallery and they're going to blow them out of the water, but they really don't. It's like, man, you're seeing some of the best in that. So it's a huge honor to be
Yeah.
in that top 20, I think. So
Oh,
congrats.
yeah. Thank you so much. No, it was wonderful and meaningful, and so many different layers. But yeah, no, I was thrilled, and it was so great to see the other art as well. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel very fortunate to be in it, but I know that there are so many wonderfully qualified artists whose work blow me away so I just feel like the competition factor of it is a little daunting,
Hmm.
but I was very proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have been. Yeah. Well, so tell me a little bit about how you got into this art field and tell me about how you grew up and, what your education was and so on.
So I grew up in Dallas, Texas, with my parents both being creative in uh, different ways. My dad, he was a painter, but he didn't show really.
Hmm.
Um, and then my mom had a business, which was needlepoint, uh, gosh, anything needlepoint stitching. Um, it was creative needle, Inga's needle art. So I was kind of around a lot of creativity to a degree that you can be in Dallas, Texas, back in the 80s. Um, but I always loved drawing and painting, or at least drawing. I hadn't painted really until I got older. Um, but yeah, I was always fascinated seeing my father draw things and just be like, wow,
Hmm.
you know? And so, yeah, I've always loved it. And it's always been a good way for me to concentrate, in school, even though it looked like I was distracted, I'd be drawing while
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
do the work, so you remember those books you had with the paper covers?
Yeah, the paper
It,
bag, shopping bags.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'd be drawing all over that. And even my brother did that when he was in school too. And he did some really good stuff, but he didn't, he chose a different direction, which is, his thing. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, I kind of learned a lot through just practice on my own because, back in the day, Texas and did not really have an academy. I would
Hmm.
have loved that, but Just kind of have to figure it. I had to figure it out on my own.
So did you go to college or anything for it though?
I, I, I went to college for a few years and then got a job. And then it was like, I went to North Texas State up in Denton and learned advertising and took art and stuff. And really, realism was frowned upon.
Right.
Basically, It was like modern, and I hear this a lot about colleges from other people. And, they say, oh, go to the easel and just do something, be free. Like, well, I need some structure, give me some guide, some structure, foundational skills, then I can do it, It didn't.
I had this experience when I was in college that you just reminded me of. It was ridiculous. So there was this guy, I mean, more than half the department was totally buying into this modernist approach where no technique, all about concept, and that's it, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting in class and we've got a model. And I'm, of course, as an aspiring realist, I'm like really trying hard, and these guys are talking on the other side of the room, and he's literally doing this. He's literally like got his hands in paint and he's like rubbing on the canvas like this, but he's looking at the guy he's talking to and being like, yeah, right. Yeah. He's not even looking at the canvas or the model while he's doing it. And I'm just like, oh gosh, why am I here right now?
Yes. Yeah.
Like he's not even looking at it.
Yeah.
It was a trip.
No, it was like, why am I here? I could go get a job on the weekends back in Dallas and make some money. Oh, maybe I should just do that full time.
Yeah.
So I quit, I was like, this isn't for me. This is not what I'm for. And, I tried, I was in a few shows at school, but nothing, it was like, oh, well, okay. I did what I was supposed to do in class and I put it in a show, but it wasn't something I wanted to learn. It was, gluing paper to things. And I think the main thing that I got out of it was learning how to grid. So what we did, that's the main thing that I thought, oh, this is something I could really take advantage of. And what we would do is take you take a photo from a magazine or something, and then you grid it, but then you warp the grid on your paper. So you might make the face sort of like all over the place instead of like.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the jaw would be this big or something.
Really?
So you warp it. Yeah. That was a cool thing. That was the only thing that I really took home.
So I've never seen you use that. I don't see any really distorted portraits or anything. Oh, okay.
No, that was 30 some plus years ago.
So, okay. Yeah. So you used it for a few paintings or something and then moved on.
Yeah. That was part of the project. So,
okay.
But then I got art jobs. So I was painting. I've painted custom tile for a company in Dallas. I painted like Alice in Wonderland fantasy furniture. And that was a company that sold through like Neiman Marcus, Schwarzschild, all these, and it was like Alice in Wonderland, kind of rabbits with a top hat with the thing, Victorian dress, whatever.
Right.
So lots of practice with that, but that was acrylic. I mean, it's like that crafty acrylic stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I was working with my mom's company doing portraits, not actually like dog portraits were real campy things. You've seen them before. It's kind of that you take a dog's head and you put it in a general, painting,
Yeah.
whatever. So,
This is some real high art stuff you're doing.
I mean, yeah, so it's pretty funny. But that segued because I wasn't able to make money painting it on needlepoint canvas because you have to be able to stitch it.
Okay.
So you have to follow lines and think about that. And so then I started doing Photoshop and having it printed. So I would essentially paint the background, right? And then you scan it. So you have that printed or ready for print. But then I would paint, people would say, oh, well, I want my Cavalier King Charles, and then do you have a white and red Cavalier King Charles? And then, so I would paint the face and paint the paws
On
and then
the
Photoshop on.
canvas print.
Yeah, so I would scan that. First, I was painting it on paper, the face, and then the paws, however
Right.
kind of situation it was. And then with Photoshop, put that on the body.
Okay.
And so then as I was learning to do that, or not learning, but I was working with a company doing that. And then I just started drawing with Photoshop myself.
Okay.
So, like you Illustrator, but I just used it as a drawing tool
Right.
or painting tool.
And how long ago was this?
Early 90s.
Early 90s. Photoshop was
Mm-hmm.
sophisticated enough for that in the 90s?
Well, no. No, the painting, no, that was late 90s.
Wow. Okay. You were right
Yeah.
at the beginning of the whole Photoshop thing.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
cow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you started
Yeah.
school in the early 90s.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not to,
And,
I have a
and
bad
paint,
habit of figuring out people's ages. I apologize. But
no, it's
it
okay.
sounds like we're about the same
I'm a little
age. I graduated high school in 92, so yeah.
85.
Oh, so
So,
you're a little bit older. You look so young.
yeah.
Good for you.
Uh,
Jeez.
it's the filter.
Yeah. Good with the computer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm confused about what you did with these though. So you put them in Photoshop, but were they printed for some commercial use or?
Yeah. So it was printed for needlepoint. So,
Okay.
needlepoint stitching,
Okay.
because that was my mom had the company Creative Needle,
Okay.
which it was a wholesale company. And so what you do is you buy this, they call it scrim. It's a type of canvas that has holes in it. So you sell it, the people buy the yarn with the same colors.
Oh,
And
so
then,
it's like yarn by number.
yeah, stitching
Yeah.
by number,
Okay.
essentially.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And my mom wanted me to take over the business, and I thought, no way.
So how did you transition from that into painting?
Well, I tell you, I've taken so many classes and been so disappointed, needing structure. And, like you would look up in the phone book, this is aging me right now. You look up in the phone.
Too late. I already did that a few minutes ago.
Yeah. But you look up and you would try these classes and you're just like, dude, I know what shading is. But,
Yeah.
and come on, bring more to it.
So these are just
And,
like local artists that are teaching community type classes.
Community college type stuff.
Right.
And so I found this school in the phone book. And I thought, you know what? I am not going to invest until I see what it is first.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I like what I see, then I will take those classes. So it was a woman, Elizabeth Locke, who had a school called Austin Fine Arts Classes. And I drove down, it was in south of town, and I drove down there just to look in the window because I was like, I want to see what this is all about before
Mm-hmm.
I make any commitments. And I look in the window. Nobody was there. It was closed, but I could look in the window and see all the benches and the paintings on the wall and the still life stuff and all the art supplies. And I thought, well, I think this is it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
And so I did that for, I took her class, and you're basically learning everything from step one. So all the drawing and painting I'd done before, my first class was to sit on one of those horses
Mm-hmm.
with a newsprint, a big newsprint, a piece of charcoal, breathe and do figure eights.
What? Never heard of
Yeah.
that. Interesting.
So it's using your shoulder, using, breathing and, how you stop breathing. Sometimes you get really
Oh, I do
tight.
that with everything. Even in the podcast,
Well, yeah.
I notice I'm not breathing half the time. It's terrible. I'm like going brain dead because of it, I think.
Okay, so figure eights,
Yeah, seriously.
breathing and doing figure eights with the charcoal and just keep moving. And I was like, what are we doing?
So is it also to
Uh,
teach you good drawing form?
yes, but I think there was some reprogramming too, because it's sort of like you come from a certain, learning on your own, whatever. And this is a way to redirect and refocus.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great, at the time I thought this was like yoga class or something. And then I realized that this was kind of a way to back up, and, like you get too close to something,
Mm-hmm.
I have my, even some students that I've had, I say back up, they working on a big painting and they've got their fingers like they're writing.
Mm-hmm.
They're painting like this instead of painting back here with a very open hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's when you get to the details, you can do that kind of stuff, or at least when I do that, I get tighter. But in the beginning, it's sort of like being able to see what you're painting as opposed to, being up here and, trying to get everything. And it's like, well, back up. You have to back up and see your work. So I think that's what it taught me, was to recalibrate the way I approach painting and seeing it in a new way.
Okay.
And then from there, and I did the drawing, learning how to draw, shading, oil painting, which is the first time I learned how to paint with oils, and was incredible. We did, the cones and the simple still lives, and then you do a master copy painting in monochromatic master copy. And then you do another master copy just to like learn the strokes and try to emulate the brush strokes. And I did a painting of Mancini, one of his paintings. And, it was really
Good
hard.
choice. I love his work.
Yeah. And trying to be loose and so you're, and I've learned from Kwang Ho, I've taken a couple of workshops from him. And the one thing that he teaches you is teaching you how to see.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a while to really figure out, when I hear my students, they're like, well, how, what's that mixture you put down? I would say the same thing. Like how many parts of this color to this color to this color did you put on your brush? And it's like, I just made it a little bit more green, bringing it down from high saturation. It is training your eye and training the way you see. So that's what I learned, and then took workshops from different artists, and that kind of broadened my horizons and different approaches. So yeah.
So you mentioned Kwang Ho. Would you say
Yeah,
he was your most significant influence then?
I would say in different ways. I took he was the one of the main ones, I think, because he opened the door for my first gallery
Hmm.
representation. So, and I will say I did take. Do you know Kim English in
No,
Colorado?
no.
Um, he, I think he's in Colorado. I don't know where he is now, if he's still there, but I've taken a couple of workshops with him, and uh, what was really interesting, we did like short paintings all day long for the whole time. It's like the maximum time you're spending on a painting is maybe 20 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it was like a workout, and it kind of breaks everything down to, like we do 5-minute paintings, 10-minute paintings, 15-minute
Of
paintings
what?
of landscapes, people in a landscape, and figures in a landscape. And what it is sort of his approach is very basic. Like, it's not about details,
Mm-hmm.
but the feel and the colors. And so, I mean, he's got beautiful work, and it's very loose, but it's on point with the values and the composition, and color. And but what it helped me to do was, not get choked, and to be able to kind of back off, loosen up, see what the essential information is for the painting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like you don't have to put in every single detail. I mean, you can, right? But the way I like to paint is sort of the way I see things. It's like I see something, I can't recall every single detail when I look at it, from memory, but so you get kind of an idea, and part of that idea is this, the atmosphere around,
Hmm.
the figure, the landscape. It's sort of like you don't have total recall. So I'm not going to paint it like I have total recall. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's like, these points in a painting or in a form or in a face that stand out, the shape of the eyebrows, the shape of the mouth, the color of the hair, all these things. For me, I feel like those are the most important pieces, and then everything else kind of is part of the atmosphere. It worked. I'm not going to go into detail with every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember all that.
Right. Right. Yeah, I got to look him up. I'm not at all familiar,
Yeah.
but I'm really interested in that process because my process, I mean, I have never implemented something as short as a 5 or 10 minute painting in my teaching process. So that's really foreign to me.
Yeah, I was almost crying. I was like, I don't know what you're teaching me. Show me, and he came around. He's like, okay, look, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, oh, got it now, you
Huh.
know?
That's
So,
great.
well, and Elizabeth Locks, I'm trying to loosen up in my brushwork. She said for every five brush strokes, do three, you know?
Hmm.
And so there's all these little pieces of information and approaches to, that I have to remember on my own, just to say, okay, back off, take a deep breath. you know,
Right.
getting
Right.
choked. So,
Yeah. So tell
yeah.
me about your evolution. I mean, obviously these three people you've mentioned have had some influence, but
Yeah.
you don't paint like any of these three people. Or I guess I can't speak for Kim, um but you don't
I
paint like Kwang Ho. So
no.
tell me about your evolution. How did you come to where you are now? Or do you even know?
Well,
Can you?
I think what it is that, I was influenced. I loved Ron Hicks' work, and I was
Hmm.
blown away. You could just loosen up like that. It didn't seem like that was an option. The way he just was very tonal and just luscious in minimalizing the saturation, but getting these really beautiful paintings. I was just like, how do you do that? So
Mm.
I really by him. And I think that my work kind of showed that in the beginning. And then as well as Kwong, because there were certain things that I was learning at the time when I started in galleries. Um, and I think I mean, we're all still evolving. We keep evolving. We
Hmm.
keep being, we're like trying new ideas. And so in the beginning, I was way looser than I am now. So now I'm sort of bringing in the realism and, and, and using those loose brushstroke qualities in it as well. So I like to refine certain areas and then leave some kind of, just more gesture
Yeah.
when I,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah.
tell me about your choice. I mean, you focus a lot on portraits. And tell me about that. How did that become a major focus in your work?
I've always loved painting people, always. And figure painting, portrait, narrative portrait, um, all those kind of things. I just love it. I want to, there's a lot more I want to do with that, but yeah, I've always done that. I've always painted, drawn people.
Hmm.
And even in high school, I loved exploring, trying to get a likeness, and that was my challenge to myself. Um, yeah, it's a connection, a human connection.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you what it is you like about it, but I think I'm assuming that's it, that you're able to
Yeah,
connect with it because it's one human painting another.
yeah, yeah. And I had well, and I'm inspired by the people that inspire me, and so uh, lately I've done a lot more people in my family. So the kids. That's
Hmm.
one of. I did another painting of my son, my older son, at that same age years ago, and so it's same size. And I thought, well, I need to do one of my younger son that same size. So there it is. But then I have the painting of my mom, my aunt, and both of them passed away last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So yeah, so that there's been a lot of family stuff that I've been taking care of. Having, you know, teenagers and then having to take care. My mother had a stroke several years ago. And so I've been managing her care and taking care of everything for her. And then my aunt sold, so that's mom, her name is Inga. And
Hmm.
then sold, and so this got in the select 50s for the Portrait Society.
Okay.
Um, and she lived in uh, Georgia, in Madison, Georgia, which is sort of northwest of no, northeast, sorry, of Atlanta. in this big, huge Victorian house. And she and I wanted her at one point, I was wanting her to be able to pose for like the face off at Portrait Society in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
She would have been amazing.
Yeah, she's
She
got a great
so
face.
she she was incredible. So we would have the best time. So every time I would, after Atlanta, the Portrait Society, I would take several days to go hang out with her, and we'd run the streets, and we'd go visit her friends who were just as amazing and multi-level characters. And she was 6 feet tall.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, she's tall.
And you know she's very distinctive.
Yeah.
She has kind of shabby Victorian, but very, very engaging. Very, I painted her quite a lot. And so yeah, and then she was sort of my creative person in my life, in my family. And my mom was the more practical hustler person in my family.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had those both, a balance of both of those. And, but yeah, so last year was pretty hard.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So what do you do with these paintings that you've got of your family? Can you part with them, or are these just for you?
Yeah. Well, so I do have also a painting I gave my mother. Let's see if I can move it. This painting of my
Mm-hmm.
their mom, and that's in Sweden, and she's my mormor, which is mother's mother in Swedish.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave that painting to my mom for one of her birthdays.
Oh, that's nice. But your
Yeah.
mom's not here now, so where's the
No,
painting?
no, it's here.
Oh,
So
duh, of
yeah,
course. My God, that's the dumbest question.
yeah,
The painting's
so,
right behind you. Oh my gosh, that's too
yeah.
much.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna go
Um,
with I thought it was a print. We're just gonna go with that, leave it at that.
she actually made prints for the sisters. So
Did she? Cool.
that was my mom did. Yeah. So that painting of my mom, I'm gonna keep.
That's this
And
one here. This one's your mom?
yes,
Okay. These are both so
yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. That's her determination. You can see how she's a workhorse.
Yeah.
That's a painting from. She was in her office, sitting in her her little mini wheelchair, sitting behind my husband, who was helping her with her computer. So she's like, staring like,
Yeah.
okay, did you fix it? But that's, when she comes into the room, that's her look of like, oh, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Yeah.
She was for the most part right. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, these are gorgeous. I mean, this one,
Thank
when I
you.
saw this, you posted this recently.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, I love this painting.
Thank you.
It's really, really
Yeah.
beautiful. It's timeless. It feels like, I don't know, like Monet could have painted it or something.
But see, that's the way she would have showed up in
Really?
portraits.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's not
If
just
we
her. I
had,
mean, she's got a beautiful face, but what I love about it is I love the sharpness. I mean, it's none of it is
yeah,
really, really tight, but the sharp
right.
focus that you get in her face, and then these beautiful edges on
Yeah.
her face and figure that unify this
Yeah.
really, really loose painterly background.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, you nailed that one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was I think that's one of my last paintings I finished because I was trying to
Wow.
get it.
What's the size on that one?
It is, I think, like 11 by something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
11
great.
by,
So, and then this one is the one that won at the Porch Society. an
Yes.
award at the Porch Society a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
last year?
Last year.
Last year. Yeah, and this
Yeah.
is awesome.
Thank you.
So tell me about the little smiley face on his finger.
All right. So that background is one of my mother's designs for needlepoint, right?
Oh, wow.
And then my grandfather in Sweden stitched that. And so this was a pandemic painting. My grandfather died like over 20 years ago. But anyway, he needlepointed. He would sit outside, feed the birds and needlepoint in the sun. When in his older age. But the painting is from when the pandemic started and we had to do FaceTime with mom. And so they did, so she and my sons were talking with FaceTime, and then they started doing this finger puppet thing, you know. So that is sort of how it's all connected, multi-generational, with the, you know, current situation, the grandson, the grandmother's, you know, me painting it, and then my mom's design and my grandfather's stitching.
That is really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's in it. Did you talk about that when you sent it in? I mean, did you write some sort of description?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that adds a lot to it. It's already a beautiful painting, but when you know what all that stuff represents, it adds a lot to it.
Yeah.
And then this one is pretty old, right? I remember, I'm quite familiar with this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is of Carl when he was about the same age.
Okay.
So they're like 2.5 years apart. He's older. And my husband was out of town, and I was trying to get the kids ready for bed, and, you know, they're getting their pajama pants on, and I had a model coming the next day to my studio and in the house. And so I was putting up all sorts of fabrics and, you know, things. And so like puppies, they're running around in my studio. And my little son, Carl, who was always a poser, he was like, hey, take a picture of me. And he got the trapper hat and the fake flowers, and he just goes right into position.
Really? You know? That's great.
Oh my God. But yeah. So in a fraction of a second, all these pictures I got of him, I couldn't even think about the model coming the next day. I'm like, oh my God, I have to paint this. Oh my God. You know? So, and that fabric behind him was fabric my mother had bought that she was going to make herself a coat out of, but never did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how old is this painting?
Oh gosh. 4 or 5 years old.
Okay. Oh, so your son's not that old then. I imagined it.
Well, he's 15.
He's 15. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of why I'm so familiar with this painting other than social media. This wasn't in any of the contests or anything.
It actually, I submitted it for the Portrait Society. It did not go in.
Oh.
So
I must have just seen it on social media and been impressed with it.
No, with the Fine Art Connoisseur magazine, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might be it too. Okay. So it's been around. It's not.
It's been around.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, here's another one. Now tell me about this one.
So that's Wallflower. And that is a painting I did years ago. And the backdrop is actually a printed, I got it from a upholstery store. And it's like kind of a rough cotton fabric that's printed.
Mm-hmm.
Actually from Sweden. And it sort of, what they did, the design of it is like they have these flowers from classical paintings, and they sort of digitally like masked them on top of each other, sort of.
Yeah.
So it fades in and out and fades in and out, but I just loved it. Had so much depth to it, and I just wanted to paint it. And
Yeah.
so yeah. And this is Megan Morongova. So she's one of my models, and yeah,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I love exploring that kind of, again with the loose quality, but bringing out these forms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really what I like about your work. I just
Uh,
love that juxtaposition, the loose and the tight. This one's a little,
yeah,
maybe you don't see it this way, but this one seems a little different for you with
yeah.
it's almost like an iconic piece.
This was actually I did this for the Art Nouveau show at Vanessa Roth Gallery,
Mm,
Fine Art. And she had this whole Art Nouveau theme that she was doing for this group show. And I was like, oh, never thought about that, you know? But I was very inspired by Muka and, you know, who are the other ones? Oh my God, my brain's fried. Everyone in that in that theme.
right. Yeah.
Alfonso Muka.
Yeah, it's
And
really cool. I mean,
thank you.
so with I'm assuming you kind of masked this all off, painted the painting, and then gold leafed it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah.
just that around the edges is the leafing,
Right.
and there's nothing on the painting itself. So yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you still have this one or did it end up selling?
I sold it.
You did. I can imagine
Mm-hmm.
you would. Yeah. So, one of the things that's always appealed to me about your work that I think is not terribly common in figurative painting, and I'm gonna pull up your Instagram account here and we'll look through there. Oh, that's actually email. Okay. So, is that you just have a gift for painting skin and you put a lot of color, dynamic color variation in your skin, which
Thank you.
really appeals to me. It's
Thank you.
something I'm after in my own work too, so I think that's why I like it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, you just have a lot of variation in color and just very dynamic brushwork in the skin. Is that something that, I mean, tell me a little bit about that evolution. I'm assuming you didn't start painting like this. It's something that sort of came about over time.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I actually was listening to uh, a couple of your podcasts, and I think it was with Ruth. Ruth
Fitton?
Fitton?
Yeah,
Yeah, she's amazing.
she
She's
is.
amazing.
She is.
And I think in talking about painting from photographs, and I paint from life on a weekly basis
Mm-hmm.
for practice. But my idea is that you paint, if you can translate painting from life into painting from photographs in the same way, that's kind of the goal for me, because I can't have it. I have weird hours. Sometimes I paint till 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's hard that you can't just have someone here waiting and the lights being perfect and everything set up. So, but what sometimes I do is what I'll paint from a photograph, like it's as if they're sitting there. And, but towards the end of the painting, I won't look at the photograph. I'll keep going in with some more colors, playing with some, different value shifts, playing with edges, creating an edge, kind of taking that artistic license. And so this, for example, was interesting. It was I think it was for, there was a show, LA art show, maybe a couple of years ago. and they wanted to, with a bend gallery, and they wanted to do 5x5s. And so I did a series of 5x5s. And what I did, and this is just kind of, I don't know, it was my own kind of crazy start, but I started with doing like a floral background, so I mushed all the 5x5s, together. I painted a floral background and then painted a figure, the portrait on top. So this is a 5x5. And then I decided that I wanted to kind of incorporate some heavy, saturated chroma edges, kind of, deconstructed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went a roundabout way of doing that, but, just having some sort of, I wanted it was the idea. I thought, well, maybe if I use the same model and it could be bought as one piece or separately and it still reads. So that's why I wanted to have like a background that's kind of fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put these, but they didn't really want to do that. So I just started it that way, but then ended up, putting portraits in, separate portraits.
Yeah. Well, and as I look at this, these background colors are really bold, and it's incredible how they glow. It's just so interesting. But then what I love is just all these little dabs of green that you have in almost arbitrary. It's not arbitrary. I understand that, but you didn't see them exactly like that, which is what I think makes a great portrait painter, when you paint beyond what you see. I mean, a lot of portrait painters are like, paint from life, paint from life, paint for life. And then you'll know what skin looks like. And I often tell my students, no, yeah, that's great to paint from life, which I did for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But even when painting from life, a great portrait painter doesn't copy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm getting from yours, is that, and you said that, like, you go beyond, you put the photo away, and in the case of working from life, the model would go home and you might work when the model's not there. And it's a similar practice. Because you're taking all these color liberties that just make the skin even more real than real.
Right. Well, I mean, and it's that optical mixing.
That's what I call it. Yeah.
Yep. I think I got it. I must have gotten it from you.
Oh, really?
One of your
How funny is that?
Because it does. Like, I mean, all the atmosphere around is bouncing into the skin, So there's so many colors happening, but you're not thinking about it, and I always tell my students, like, to look upside down with a mirror and just, abstract the form from what you think it is, because when you assume that there's white in the eyes, it's not white,
No.
It's in shadow, or it's, there's so many different colors happening. So anyway, but that's kind of my thing. I just love, and yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's great. All right, let me pull up some others here. Oh, this is interesting.
Yes.
You got your reference? Well, see, here's a great example. Like, I don't see those colors. Yours looks much more interesting than this, which is just sort of her skin's just very even brown caramel-y color.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And you put all this color in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now I see people and I look at their faces and I'm like, oh my God, do you realize you have this purple and this real pink? I feel like I'm looking at people like paintings.
Yeah, you have to listen to if you haven't already, listen to the Rose Franson one, because her and I have gone back and forth for a while on this, because she's also really good at this.
Yeah.
And I would always tell her, like, okay, you're not seeing those colors. She's like, I am, Jeff. I'm seeing those colors. I'm like, you're not seeing those colors. She's like, I am. And then at some point, she finally gave in a little bit on the podcast and said, okay, well, the truth is I'm kind of missing the color. Like, I'm going for it and I don't hit it, but I like it, so I leave it. And then I put something next to it and it works.
Right.
Right. And
Exact.
yeah, so I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
so maybe you're not intentionally making all these interesting colors, but that's what's happening. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, if I think about my own work, that's sort of a similar situation. It's like,
Yours is
oh,
incredible. I've been
thanks.
a
Thanks.
fan for years and years. Yeah.
Well, thanks.
And you do the same thing though.
Well,
I
that's why
mean,
I think I'm drawn to your work. Yeah. I really love colorful, rich, beautiful skin.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
love it. And you do it so well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's pull up your website now and see what else you got
Okay.
on your website. Okay, so here's another one. Oh, and these bold
That was
strokes.
Thank you. That was so much fun. I was like, I'm just going to take a chance. And that's the thing, why not?
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah, these are
What
great.
and here's the thing I tell the students, it's like, try a color. If you don't like it, you can take it off. You can put something next to it, like you said, to kind of tone it down or desaturate it, or, like you use a lot of pink in your colors, in your skin tones. You don't want it to be Pepto-Bismol. So just, throw a opposite color in there or throw a cool color.
I
But this
love
is
that Pepto-Bismol. That's a great analogy because that's what skin can look like if you paint it too
yes.
too literal, if you're too literal.
And yeah. And so this is what, I've seen a lot of wonderful artists that blend their colors beautifully. It's very soft and I love that. I paint differently, and it's just what I like to do.
Right, right.
You know,
Yeah, there's always
so
the opposite, where it's like you look at Bouguereau paintings and like his subject matter or not, he's going the exact opposite direction where he's got these almost monochromatic tones in the skin. But holy crap. I mean, I saw the satyr, I don't know if this is the exact name, satyrs and the nymph painting in the Met,
uh-huh.
and I think I cried. I mean, I sat there for 2 hours staring at it. The skin was so pearlescent, and yet there was
Yeah.
like no color in it. It was like, so
I
there's more than one way to do this incredibly well.
Yes,
But
yes. So
I like you am drawn to throwing in a little extra color, even though I look at
yeah.
a Bouguereau painting and just like want to shoot myself because I'll never be that good. you know?
It's hard.
Yeah.
This that's what's so great. There's variety, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what's I love collecting art myself. I'm just like, okay, so I'm gonna stare at this for a while today.
Yeah.
Just soak it in, and so
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you find this is sort of a random question, but since you say you collect art yourself, I do too. I'm an addict. I love
yeah,
collecting art. Problem is I can't afford to do it very much, so I have to control
yeah.
my addiction. But um, I find that
Sometimes
I
it's
collect two kinds of art, and that's
uh-huh.
art that I relate to because they're doing something that I want to do, and then there's art I collect that they're doing something so far from what I'll ever do that I appreciate it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two
Yeah,
two things I seem to be drawn to. The thing I'll never
yeah,
do and the thing that I'm interested in doing.
yes,
Do you find that
absolutely.
as well?
Yeah, yeah. No, and sometimes it is about just being kind of transported to, like these kind of. I have some paintings that I got my when my dad passed away. Some of his paintings he collected over the years, as far as like auction pieces. I've got a few classical landscapes. We don't know who. There's no signature, but they're great. And I just feel like it sort of transports you to another time, and you see that atmosphere, and you connect with that, and it's like the old monk walking down the street with a donkey or something, which is totally different, but you're transported because you have that same connection, with
Mm-hmm.
the. And then I got a few paintings from my aunt's house, that one was from a Swedish artist. I can't remember. I have to look and see. I don't know if I knew the artist, but beautiful landscape. And it just made me feel like I was in Sweden on a, snowy morning, or so those kind of things too. But yeah, no, can't really afford to buy so much. I mean, I do, but I also do trades and such,
Yeah,
so
same.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love seeing it. I'm just trying to absorb what I can.
Yeah, it's so great. And I mentioned to you earlier that you had donated that 6x9 to the Porch Society, and it was so good. Do you have that on your Instagram? That 6x9
God,
by any chance?
I don't even remember which one that is.
You don't remember? That's like, oh, it was so good. But for those of you who don't know what the 6x9 is, it's an auction where artists from all over the world donate a 6x9 painting to the Porch Society. And then the Porch Society has this whole thing where you come in all at once, you put your name in a hat for one that you like, and then they draw names, and there's like 100 or more paintings to bid on. So you have to be smart about it and bid on the one you want, and then quickly run over to the one that you want second. And so it's like this huge race. And I bid on yours. I put all of my stickers in for yours. Well, when I say all of them, because I cheated, I know everyone does it. I had my friends put their names in too. And if they want it, I would buy it, And still, yeah, and still I shouldn't have come clean. I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Still, I didn't get it, but Rosemary got it and taunted me for having won it. And it was torture. But I'm looking at your Instagram. I don't think it's in there.
Look like?
What did it look? Well, it was a portrait. It was a female portrait, obviously 6x9. And I couldn't say there were distinctive things like a particular clothing or particular hairstyle or anything that I could describe to you. I just remember a female portrait. But anyway, it was gorgeous. And I wish I got it, but I didn't. Are you donating this year?
I am. I got to get going on it.
All right. I'm gonna bid on yours again, or not bid, but throw my name in the hat.
Okay. The pressure's on.
One of these days, I'm going to get one of yours.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you had mentioned your students a while back, and you have a school called the Art Dojo, correct?
Atelier Dojo.
Atelier Dojo. So tell me about how that started and a little bit about, how that whole thing works.
So, Jennifer Balkin and Denise Fulton, and Jennifer would always host. This is prior to even having dojo. We call it dojo. But she would always have us over for painting. We'd hire a model at her studio and hang out and paint and chat and paint and chat, when you have that small group of close friends, art friends and such. And so we would, have different, and we were women. So, and most of us, it was me, Denise, Jennifer, and then Karen Manus, sometimes Felice House, some other people that would come in from time to time, but we were sort of the main ones. But anyway, we would talk, you sit there, you paint, you talk, and we would always chat about everything. And then we'd be like, I wish we could have this in Austin. Why doesn't Austin have, it's a destination place, everybody wants to come to Austin now. So we're like, why can't we just have an art school here? Have workshops, we teach, things like that. And if you know Denise Fulton, she has a corporate background, and she's like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it, and Jennifer and I are looking at each other like, oh yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is my dream. And I want to do that. And I'm like, well, if you can make it so, that'd be amazing. And so we essentially are part of that foundership. And so now, we began sort of having like basic drawing classes, just where we have like several painters come or artists teach that, and then I would teach portrait painting or figure painting. I'd switch off, and Jennifer would also do the same thing. So I would teach at night, one night a week. We'd host workshops, and so then we had COVID, and so we started in 2018. We opened in 2018, and then COVID happened, and so we were like,
Great
"My
timing.
God, what are we gonna do? We have rent to pay. We got all this," and I was like, "Well, and we're not that technologically advanced, so with our stuff, so we're like, what do we do?" And then thought about, well, take it online. Let's see if we can do that. How do we do that? Zoom. Okay, so let's do that. And did a lot. I mean, we were fine. It was great. And I had international artists, which was really cool. And so, we managed to get by. And then once the doors opened again, we got back on, and now we've moved to a new location. We've got a new academy instructor. And then Jennifer's also taking on academy instruction. And I'm still teaching painting. So now we're with the new academy that we have. It's way more rigorous, and you gotta earn your place, to get to the next level, which I'm sure you do as well.
I do, yeah.
Because, and it's not to be hard on anybody. It's something you have to learn, and it has to become intuitive to get. Because if you can't get the form right, and you're like, well, I want to learn how to paint oils from life and blah blah blah. Well, you need to get that drawing stuff down, And so some people really, I've had students that, way in the beginning, who said, "Oh yeah, I have experience." No, it was more.
Yeah.
It was more of college kind of stuff where it's interpretive, and I'm like,
Right.
well, I don't interpretive. I'm teaching you paint what you see, And so I was like, oh God, because you spend a lot more time with those students where other people need time as well. And so anyway, but it's sort of you trial and error, and you figure out how it works. And so now we really have people that are very focused, and we're getting more and more students, and it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you had said about getting students that have experience, but then are not as experienced as they believe they were because they went to university, reminded me. I had this one student who actually ended up being very talented after going through the drawing program, or I should say very good. I mean, she came talented. She ended up being very good. But she had graduated from a university in art. So she had a bachelor's in art when she started with me. And when I had her drawing, she was just starting from the beginning because she wasn't doing great work because she'd, gone to one of these universities. And at one point she heard me say something like, what was it? It was a term that is so common, like value. Like you don't have the value right. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something that common. And she said, "What's value?" I almost died. Not because she's an idiot, but because that poor girl wasted 4 years of her life at a university. And they never even
Yeah.
brought up that word or whatever word it was. It was something
Yeah.
just as simple. You know, it was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, they never even brought that
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
She ended up
No.
being very successful, thank goodness. But
Yeah.
man, it's
I
crazy.
mean, I can appreciate modern abstract art that's well done, and really
Same. Yeah.
I I love new ideas. I love seeing quality work no matter what it is. But I I don't think it hurts to have that background in realism and knowing form. I think it just takes you to that next level, even if you don't do realism. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because it guides your eye to taking, put more depth, maybe. I don't think it hurts anybody to learn what we do, or at least,
No.
you know, learn drawing from life or realism and just getting form.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
There's so many great realists that have kind of moved away from realism, and you kind of are too, where you use abstract elements in your paintings. But what's
yeah,
so great, what I love about your work and others like it that are like you that do that kind of move away from realism in parts or at times, is that it's a choice. You know, it's
mm-hmm.
like I imagine a musician, who only learns a few chords, and they're okay with
Exactly.
that because they could play their favorite song. But now they're stuck
Right.
because they have to only play that song and songs that are similar to it because they only know four chords. It's like
Right.
painting without learning all of these principles is like that to me. It's like, yeah, you're going to keep singing the same
Yeah.
song. You're not, or playing the same
Yeah.
song because you don't know enough to
Yeah.
actually make decisions. So, yeah, so it's great
Well,
that
I've
you did
had,
that in Austin. That's awesome for the people of
yeah.
Texas to have that as an opportunity.
Well, yeah, and now everything's at your feet. You can go anywhere. You can
Yeah,
find schools everywhere. I wish I'd had this when I was
seriously.
20.
I
Like
know.
this. Oh my God, So it's been really good, and trying to expand realism here in Austin. And just wanting to see more work here that's inspired by people here, as opposed to it'd be nice to have a little bit more variety and like the museum, but
Yeah. How
it takes a while.
Austin obviously is sort of an edgier city.
Hmm.
We all know
It's a
that. Yeah. So how is realism received in Austin in the galleries and museums and stuff? Is it like many big cities where it's sort of poo-pooed on?
I think sort of, yeah. I think you do have some galleries that have quality realism that they show here and there, but it's not full time. So
Mm,
they'll have like that kind of thing, and then you know, but we're working on that. We're
yeah.
trying to at least expose it, because um, listening to Ruth Fit, am I saying
Fitton.
it right?
Fitton.
Fitton,
I think I'm
Fitton,
saying it right. Yeah. Ruth Fitton. Yeah.
yeah. And she was talking about how that she sells more here because of being in the UK. They're more focused on modern
Mm-hmm.
kind of. But I think here we're sort of trying to bridge that gap where we're bringing in abstraction into the realism, and that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Love seeing, like, you know, put some interesting elements into your work that kind of takes it to the next level. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
Um,
I'm curious about your curriculum. So it sounds like you've kind of got class times and stuff in there. So people register for specific classes, like they might register for your painting class or for another person's drawing class. Is that right?
right. So that's on its own. You can join the academy if you want, I would say for the most part, anybody now taking my class has a good amount of experience and
Mm-hmm.
standing, and so they get what I'm saying. And so it's been really great. But we have, yeah, so we give options. So if you don't want to do the academy, but you want to take my class, you can.
Okay.
So there's no like you have to graduate in order to get in my class. It's just it's a separate thing. But right now, you know, we're looking for more teachers as well. So
Wow. Sounds like a
yeah,
big operation. So how many teachers do
yeah.
you have?
So we have Roz Sari, who is, and Jennifer Balkin, who both do the academy. So she's taken that on.
So the academy is the full-time program.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's right now it's me painting and painting the figure, painting a portrait. And so I change every 6 weeks. And then we have Danny Grant, who teaches figure drawing. And Pedro, I can't remember his last name. Oh, he teaches figure drawing kind of study
Mm-hmm.
as well. And then Denise Fulton's going to start doing beginning oil painting in the summer.
So that's 6 or
that.
7 people on the staff.
Yeah,
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah. So it's one space, and so it's sort of like, you know, we have to make sure that everybody's got their time slots and
Right.
such.
Right.
But you know, it's not bad.
Well, I'll put a link in the show notes so that people
Great.
can look it up. So hopefully you
Yeah,
guys even get more students. That'd be awesome.
absolutely.
So tell
Yeah.
me kind of what's next for you. I mean, what is your vision for the next few years with your paintings? Because you said earlier that, or maybe it wasn't this, maybe it was the first cut, but you had said that you always have the next painting in your mind, you know, and it's always like, you know, here's the thing I want to do next. So do you have the next 5 years worth of paintings in your mind, or are you always just like one painting ahead? And what?
I'm like 5 paintings ahead in my brain right now.
Oh,
They constantly evolve. They're like, it's like this salon kind of thing here with the paintings.
yeah.
Each, so I have them floating in my brain right now, and there's evolution. Like, oh, but I could do this with that one, and then I can, ooh, maybe I'll try this with that one. You know, so yeah, that's kind of where I am right now, and but yeah, I got some commissions that I need to finish, that I'm going to start, and then I've got, you know, just submit to different competitions or, you know, jury shows for now, because I don't have like a huge solid body of work. It's all sort of in process right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Great. Okay. So I got one final question for you
All right.
that I ask pretty much everyone. So if you've heard the podcast, you know what I'm going to ask you. So what is one piece of advice that you would give someone aspiring to have a career like yours as a painter?
One piece of advice. Listen to your gut. I've done this. I think I've done this with another podcast. I listen to your gut. I have ignored my gut in the past in the business part of it, and has kind of, you know, not ended well.
Okay, wait a minute. You can't just leave us at that. We got to tell
All
us some
right, see you later.
stories.
No, it's
This
just
sounds good. So what
this is
happened?
okay. This is what they don't teach you when you learn art.
Yeah.
Learn the business.
Okay.
How do you, you know, who do you call for this? What do you do for this? You know, what kind of, can you negotiate? Can you, you know, what are your rights as an artist? You know, and stuff like that. And So I've got, we all have stories.
I know, but I
And
want to hear your stories. Tell me one of your horror
yes,
stories.
well, I can't tell you exactly who it
Well,
was,
of course
but
not. Of course
I
not.
was sort yeah, I mean, they take advantage of you, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
don't know what you're doing, and they just make you feel like you should be grateful to be in their gallery and, that kind
yeah.
of thing. Then you become sort of a slave to them, and or just feeling like you're a minion, in a way, and that they're going to make you, $1 million and da 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 and do this and that, and then they don't show up, and they don't do their part, and they lie, and but then I've had great galleries, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I wish I had known,
Yeah.
and just to say, I don't know, this doesn't feel right, but they seem to have a big name, or they, pages in the magazines, they seem to, have a, you know reputation, and they love to, yeah. So I went through a lot of turmoil with that before I had my kids, and uh, it kind of turned me off painting for a while.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Just because a gallery just kind of told you they'd give you everything and took advantage of your.
Well, they they took advantage of me, and it was just, yeah, just dealing with them on a regular basis was not a nice experience, you know.
Oh, yeah,
So,
we've all
so
been burned. I mean, I
yeah,
have one gallery that stole $1,000 worth of paintings from me.
yeah.
Never got paid.
And that
What's
it
that?
might have it might have been the same one.
Might have been. It might have
We'll talk
been. We'll
later.
talk after. Yeah, and I know I
But
normally don't jump in on this, but I got to tell you. So, just because to drive this point home, because this point has never come up before,
mhm,
so I'll just share it, and I won't name names either. So it's all good. But I had an
yeah,
experience you wouldn't believe. I mean, so I met a client at a gallery for a portrait commission, and it
uh-huh.
was it was the wife. I met the wife first. Sweet woman, she was great. And then her husband showed up. And this might sound really weird, and I don't understand it. I mean, I have
Mhm.
theories, but I don't understand exactly what happened. I shook this man's hand before he even said two words. It was like he sucked the soul out of me right through my hand. Like it
Ooh.
just felt dark. Something about him felt dark.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was weird. And so, but I'm like, I ignored it. I didn't go with my gut, as you put it, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
something's up with this guy. He was cordial enough. He seemed kind of arrogant, but he was cordial
Mhm.
enough. We
Yeah.
agreed on a price, and I painted the painting. Him and his wife came to the studio like two or three times and saw the painting, so they knew exactly what it was. They'd agreed to it. They saw the size. They saw everything throughout the process. And then when the painting was finished, I called up the husband because he was the one who's going to be writing me the check. And I said, the painting is done. And he said, okay, well, we're gonna renegotiate. I'm only paying you half. This was of his kids, so there's nothing I can do with it. But
Huh.
but that was covered pretty much in the down payment. He goes, well, what else are you gonna do with it? This is business. We're renegotiating. You can't do anything with it.
You
I
can't
was
break a
like,
contract.
are you serious? He goes, yeah, I'm serious. And a lot of people say to me, why didn't you just not do it? I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this painting? Because I can't sell the
Right.
painting. It's of his kids,
Right.
right? So, oh yeah, it was. Can you believe that? I've got stories like you wouldn't. I've got so many stories.
Okay, so this is why we need to have education
Yeah,
for you take care of your business. How do you write contracts? How do you, do
I
you get a
didn't
lawyer?
have a contract, and I didn't, and I learned
Is
from
that
that.
handshake? It was a bad handshake.
It was a bad handshake. But here's the thing I've learned though also is contracts only keep honest people honest.
Yeah.
So they're good. Contracts are really good when people have a misunderstanding at the end. Those people are like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's in the contract. But artists like us, our clients have so much more money than us, they can ruin us in court anyway. But it's
Yeah.
still a good habit, because this particular guy, I couldn't have fought him. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
billionaire. I couldn't have fought him in court. He would have made my life miserable.
Yeah.
So I just had to roll over.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, you should still have a contract. Why didn't I have a contract? I'm an idiot.
Yeah. 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 But then
Yeah.
even sort of like, well, what are the terms? And not everybody has the same type of contract. Do you go to a lawyer I don't have an art lawyer, for my business, but I mean, do you need one? Is it, how can you bypass that and have a legit whatever? It's sort of like there's so much more to it because you're a business owner at that point, right?
Yeah. Do you
And
talk to
that's
your
what,
students about this? About
yes,
business type stuff?
yeah,
Good.
yeah, but
Because that's the thing. When you go to university, that's the other thing is they're professional teachers, right? They're not professional painters. So like they wouldn't know what to teach you if they could, if you know what I
yeah,
mean, or if they wanted
yeah,
to.
right.
So I find that, I mean, I all the time share everything with my students. I'm very transparent so that
Yeah,
hopefully they don't run into the same mess that I've run into
yeah,
over the
yeah,
years.
yeah.
So
It's so, yeah, trust your gut, and also, I I feel like if you don't 150% love painting, it's probably not going to be the thing for you. Do you know what I
mm-hmm,
mean?
mm-hmm,
I'm obsessed with it.
mm-hmm.
Don't feel yourself just like, do you ever feel like if you're not painting, for a long period of time,
You
you
haven't listened to that many of my podcasts so it's okay. I'm not offended. I mean, okay, I'm moderately offended, but I'll get over it. But
I haven't listened to
I know.
podcasts in a long time, so
No, it's okay.
I'm
I'm
going to
teasing you.
catch it up. By the way, I am.
No, because I get asked this question all the time, and I'm not like you would expect. So I don't disagree with you. I would
Mhm.
just, if it were me, if I were saying what you just said, I would just tweak it a little. So yes, if I'm not painting, like I develop a mental illness. I get so much anxiety, I can't even stand it. But do I love painting all the time? No. Like sometimes I don't want to be painting.
Oh,
So
right,
it's
right.
this weird, it's this dichotomy contrast. It's like, yeah, I don't love every minute of painting, but I have to be painting.
Yeah,
It's almost like
yeah,
I have to
yeah.
eat, even though everything that's put on my plate isn't delicious. Like I know I
Uh,
have to eat because I'm hungry.
mm.
That's kind of how it feels to
No,
me.
yes, yes. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
is that, do you have a similar
It,
feeling and you don't
yeah,
have to agree with me.
I
That's just
think
where
for
I
me,
come from.
yeah, yeah, yeah. For me, I haven't been able to get to the easel on a regular basis. I was traveling a lot last year, back and forth to Georgia to help out my family with my aunt, and then my mom passed away, and then so there's a lot of work I'm trying to do, finishing up that whole process. Going to go to Sweden this summer to have a funeral service for my mother. So there's a lot of distractions in my life right now, and so I feel like people say, well, how many hours of painting do you do a day? And I'm like, God, I wish, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've got things that are just waiting for me, but I got to go do this stuff. And that's,
Hmm.
football are going to take me a long time, a lot of, mailing, a lot of forms, a lot of, calls, and just kind of those logistics,
Hmm.
once that's taken care of, I think, you know, the clouds will part a little bit more for me. So, but I do feel like I get a little agitated
Oh
if I
yeah, I
don't.
get really agitated.
And I'm like, it's either I haven't eaten or I haven't been painting. So
Hey, so it fits my analogy perfectly with the
there
food.
you
Yeah.
go.
Because yeah,
Yes.
you get
Yeah.
hangry and you get what would the equivalent?
Yeah,
Pangry for not painting? Pangry?
I agree.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's funny.
It's mood balancer. So yeah.
Yeah. When I get home from work, my wife either hands me a Snickers bar to keep me from having a being
Oh,
grumpy
good.
or a paintbrush, and either way, just kidding.
Yeah.
The Snickers bar is
Protein.
a fact. The Snickers bar is a fact. The paintbrush, not so much.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really, I think that's really good advice too, because you have to,
Yeah.
I agree, you have to have passion for it. If you have to drag
Yeah.
yourself to the academy, you're never going to drag yourself to the studio, or you're never going to
Right.
make it to the studio.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a huge pleasure to talk to you. And it was
Yeah.
great to get to know you a little bit better. So thanks a lot for doing the
Yeah.
podcast.
Are you going to the Portrait Society?
Yeah, you?
Yes.
Excellent.
So we
Yeah.
will
And you
see.
mentioned Ron Hicks, who's on the faculty this year.
Oh, yeah. And he is one of the finalists.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to meeting him. And there's
Yes.
actually
He's one.
several people in my podcast won this year. So I'm looking forward to meeting them
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's going to be
Yes.
fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see you there in like 3 weeks or something, right?
Oh my
3 or 4
God.
weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right. Time flies. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
If you haven't been there before, it is a party. I love the Portage Society
Yes.
Conference. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Great things to learn there. So I'm looking
Lots
forward to
of
seeing you. We should do dinner or
Yeah.
something.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Undraped Artist Podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. And if you could, leave a comment or review. That really helps the channel. Please share the show with your friends, and if you're feeling generous, consider a monthly donation at theundrapedartist.com. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.